Thanks for making a date on the marketplace. Welcome back. Let's start today's stories with some developments from South Africa. And the Africa Development Bank is to raise $800 million for the new owners of Electricity Company of Ghana, ECG, Meralco. The deal would be supported by some other financial firms, including Standard Bank, South Africa, to raise the funds. The funds are expected to help Meralco fast-track the process of turning around the company. An agreement to this deal was signed in South Africa. Amadou Hott is Vice President of Power and Energy at the African Development Bank.
We've signed an agreement with A Energy, which is the company that led the consortium that won the concessioning for ECG Ghana, basically, to transform that distribution company, invest in the company so that it can distribute more power, it can be more reliable, so that it can invest more resources in the assets that they will take over to manage, basically, on behalf of ECG Ghana, basically. You know, they won this bid when the government decided to unbundle and concession, right? So now they need to invest about $800 million. $500 million will be led by a consortium of development banks that will be led by the African Development Bank, and $300 million will be led by Standard Bank and other commercial banks as well. So this is really for working capital and for investments, basically, to make the assets more efficient, more reliable, and to be able to do more. What's important is that because African Development Bank has agreed to take on the mandate to raise the money, all the other investors, all the other DFIs will be confident that this will succeed because of the role that the African Development Bank is playing in Africa.
So how much are we looking at here?
Total is 800 million, 500 from the DFIs, and within that 500, a big chunk will come from the African Development Bank, but we don't know how much yet because our board has not approved the transaction. We are the arranger of the overall transaction for the DFI tranche, which is 500 million, and the commercial banking tranche, which is 300 million, will be done by Standard Bank of South Africa.
All right, so the funds will go directly to A Energy, the financing wing of the Meralco consortium, which won the bid to manage ECG. The new owners are expected to fully take over ECG's operations from February next year. Let's stay in Africa, and President Akufo-Addo is trying to convince global financial giants that Ghana is one of the best places to do business. The president will be having bilateral engagements and will later address some heads of state at the Africa Investment Summit, which is ongoing in Sandton, South Africa. Earlier, George Rafi filed this report.
The program is bringing together the global financial giants, heads of state in the region, as well as pension fund managers to deliberate on how to manage capital in terms of investment attraction and where to move it. President Akufo-Addo will be using the opportunity to convince these investors that Ghana indeed is the place to do business, and they are assured of good returns on their investment. And that is why he believes that he will use this engagement to convince them to bring their capital to Ghana. He will also have one-on-one opportunities with some heads of state as well as these global financial giants as they deliberate over the next 2 days when it comes to investment attraction and the movement of capital to various countries and which country is the preferred place to take this capital. Therefore, he's hopeful that at the end of these meetings, he will be able to convince all these investors that Ghana is the place to do business when it comes to directing their investment. From the Convention Center in Sandton, this is George Rafi report for Marketplace.
All right, so let's move to yet another event in South Africa, and the Energy Ministry has given its consent for ExxonMobil to partner the national oil marketing company GOIL as part of the agreement to explore deep water oil resources in Ghana's deepwater Cape 3 points. The petroleum agreement with ExxonMobil, which gave rise to the American oil giant to explore oil and gas based on the terms of the agreement, ExxonMobil was to work with government to identify a Ghanaian-based company to potentially hold up to 5% of interest. Now, Joy Business's Daryl Kwao has been speaking with the Energy Minister, John Peter Amewu, at the Africa Oil Week in Cape Town, South Africa. He first asked him about the interest expressed so far in Ghana's licensing round.
This gathering presents us a huge opportunity to market what we have as a country. You will recollect that the President, His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, launched the first licensing round, in Ghana. And as a follow-up, events of this nature show as an avenue for market sounding and also to market exactly what we have. The interest that have been shown so far is quite very huge, and it's very interesting to know that a number of international oil companies and also national oil companies have all shown interest in our licensing round. Since this being the first, we need to get it right and get it done properly. One of the challenges or difficulties that befall producing countries is when your licensing round fails in terms of where it's not well patronized. But I think where we've gotten to now, the interest is quite high, and we are extremely sure that the level of participation is going to be high. Number one, taking into consideration the prospective nature of the blocks, and also how fast Ghana has developed from an oil field to an oil industry within a record period of less than 15 years, 12 years basically. We're now an industry, one of the players within the sub-region. And so for us, we will continue to market what we have, and we are hoping that this licensing round will turn out to be one of the most successful licensing rounds ever organized by any African country.
Any confirmation on GOIL partnering ExxonMobil yet? Yes,
Exxon has come out with its local partner, which is the national oil company, downstream, GOIL. And this was announced, I think, about 2 weeks ago. And so they are yet to officially write to GOIL. I don't know whether that has been done, but from the ministry's perspective and as our responsibility, we have notified Exxon of their choice, and we have accepted it and given the consent that it needed at the ministerial level. Yeah.
So do we know when exploration would begin then, following this agreement?
What we have to do immediately, don't forget, it's the agreement yet to be ratified. We expect the ratification to be done before the year ends. And immediately that is done, then the processes, can come. I've not had an opportunity to look at their program, but knowing Exxon as a big player in the market, we expect that they will come out with an accelerated program, which will be in the interest of Ghanaians. Yeah.
Back here in Ghana, a year after the inception of the paperless port system, several stakeholders within the port and harbours value chain say the system has indeed improved efficiency and helped rake in more revenue at the ports. CEO of the Ghana Shippers Authority, Nita Bismarck, has been speaking at the forum on the paperless port project. She's urging stakeholders to contribute suggestions on how best the system can be made more efficient.
While commendable achievements are visible, the paperless system, 1 year after its implementation, cannot be said to be 100% paperless, as there are still requests for additional copies in hard copy, additional documents in hard copy, beyond the bill of lading and the waybill. Also, the discretionary powers of some of the state's security operatives have the potential of reintroducing arbitrariness in the clearance system. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I am aware that over the period, Customs Division of the Ghana Revenue Authority, the Chartered Institute of Logistics and Transport, and others have done some reviews. Thankfully, everyone that matters in this space is here today. GRA Customs, GPHA, GCNet, West Blue, Freight Forwarders, GUTA, AGI, Ghana Standards Authority, Food and Drugs Authority, Ghana National Chamber of Commerce, Chamber of Mines, and a host of others, including you. You're also here. With this assembly of key stakeholders, I have no doubt that all the issues will be succinctly articulated, well taken note of, and adequately responded to where necessary.
Now, the Excise Unit and Tax Enforcement of the Ghana Revenue Authority, GRA, has seized several quantities of bottled drinks without tax stamps. This forms part of efforts by the GRA to ensure compliance with the tax stamp policy and to also help rake in more revenue. Charles IT again with this task force and a report.
It's been weeks since the Ghana Revenue Authority, GRA, engaged retailers and distributors on the need for compliance with the tax stamp policy. The Excise Unit and Tax Force of the GRA, through its distress action, seized cartons of bottled drinks and water from selected retail outlets which failed to have the tax stamp on their products. These are packages of bottled water and even drinks that do not have the tax stamps on them. And even if they do, some of them even have the tax stamps which, based on the GRA's assessment, are kind of fake. So you need to apply for it. No, the business has to apply for it. Chief Revenue Officer of the Ghana Revenue Authority, Kwabna Apau Ewe Anto, warned retailers of bottled products to either eschew from purchasing products without a tax stamp or risk having them seized on the shelves.
The message that we are sending is that it is not only the manufacturers that the law requires of them not to sell products without the stamps. Anybody dealing in the affected products should not sell any products without the stamps. That is the message that we are putting out there, and that is why we have been visiting the retail outlets. We are going down there, even to the kiosks, that without the stamp, don't sell. The manufacturer on behalf of the distributor. How do we know the number of products that were with you, for which they have supplied you the stamp?
Meanwhile, checks at the distribution depot of the Accra Breweries Limited showed that the tax stamp was being distributed directly to them at a fee by some unscrupulous persons.
It came out that the stamps were provided to them, supplied to them by Accra Brewery, which they shouldn't have done. They don't have any right to supply stamps to anybody. GRA is the only authority, state institution, mandated to supply the stamps to any entity in the country. Accra Brewery has no authority to supply stamps to anybody, and that is why we have seized the stamps. We will take it up. It's a serious offense. We will take it up.
Already, the Association of Ghana Industries has stated that companies and manufacturing firms like this one are complying by the tax stamp policy. But as it stands now, and based on the several cartons of bottled product that have been seized, it does tend to mean that there is much more work to be done by the excise unit of the GRA. I'm Charles Aita reporting for Joy Business.
Meanwhile, the Ghana Community Network Service Limited, GCNet, has lauded the Ghana Revenue Authority, GRA, for revoking the licenses of some freight forwarders. Recently, the Customs Division of the GRA withdrew the operating licenses of 20 freight forwarders for falsifying import of loading documents from India to other countries. According to the Executive Chairman of GCNet, Dr. Norte Omabo, the malpractices by the affected freight forwarders is at variance with the country's quest to move towards a paperless transaction system.
This investment would focus on tree maintenance and preservation, and as well support the modernization of Beaverville's manufacturing plant and expand its production capacity to meet growing local and regional demand while improving livelihood of the outgrowers. The expansion and plant installation is expected to...
The position is very clear. You compare, tax revenue with GDP, and you find that the ratios are not where they should be, which means that, there are several companies that are not meeting the obligations that they have. Now, as an entity, the GRA does not have an interest in clamping down on them. I mean, its interest rather is to ensure that, these companies flourish over time so that you can tax them, but it also requires what we say a volonté, I mean, the laws are there and you have to comply, and when you disregard, the laws and believe that, you can get away because you are connected or you know people or you are from, a particular, party, these things do not augur well, for the whole process of revenue collection. I mean, the systems have been deployed, the systems are there, but everybody must play the role. And if you don't, then, you must be prepared to face the consequences.
Is it live on the marketplace? Let's now turn attention to some other stories in business. An impact investment fund company specialized in assisting agroforestry companies, Moringa Sika, is investing $5 million into local oil palm outgrower company B. Bovid in the Western region. The investment will enhance and strengthen the company's unique palm oil polyculture model. The The company already produces crude and palm kernel oil from fruits harvested from more than 2,000 farmers.
This investment would focus on tree maintenance and preservation and as well support the modernization of Beaverville's manufacturing plant and expand its production capacity to meet growing local and regional demand while improving livelihood of the outgrowers. The expansion and plant installation is expected to boost production of oil palm in the range of 10 to 20 tons per hour. Addressing the media, founder of Beaverville, Issa Wadrago, stressed that the project has the potential to impact about 4,000 farmers within the next 5 years.
We think that agriculture in Ghana is lacking a lot of things. That's the direct communication to the farmers, direct, getting them to understand what is working in and around them, like our climate change that we are doing, the climate smart agriculture, getting the farmers to understand what else they can do besides the core business they do. We are training them in guinea fowl rearing, grass cutter, piggery, and all that, besides the oil palm. So these are the things that we think that at the end of the day, you see that we've created many value chain in the agriculture sector, and this is what we need. This is what we need. So yes, it will help increase the productivity in Ghana. It will also attract, it will be interesting and profitable, and that will go ahead, attracting more youth into the business.
Mr. Wadrago justified that the investment is in recognition of their credibility and viability as a social enterprise.
So of course, we have money power now to buy more, to help the farmers. Everything that I came out to do is, we can do it, flexibly, and, we won't have that challenge. Those days, the stress is not on only BBOVID, but on all these international organizations who are done, of course, very rich, so we don't have that issue again, and the capacity to reach out the farmers is now going to be increased. We're going to recruit more agronomists. The next 2 years we're looking at recruiting about 10 or 12 agronomists who will have a clear and direct relationship with our farmers.
He added that Beaverville is committed to transforming the face of agribusiness in Ghana. Mr. Wadrago called on government and development agents, particularly banks, to make agriculture attractive to the youth through strategic investment opportunity.
All right, now moving to the Upper West region now. Corporate Services Executive at MTN Ghana, Samuel Cranting, has warned persons who use pre-registered SIM cards to desist from such acts or be made to face the law. He said such persons who pre-register SIM cards commit a criminal act and could attract a fine or face prison sentence. Samuel Cranting gave the warning at a meeting organized by MTN for its stakeholders in Wa. Rafiq Salam reports.
One major worry subscribers of the various telecommunication networks in the country grapple with in recent times is the upsurge in mobile money fraud. On a daily basis, subscribers complain of being defrauded by faceless individuals using pre-registered mobile SIM phone cards. At a forum organized by MTN Ghana and attended by its major stakeholders comprising of players in the banking industry, security services, and the media, Corporate Services Executive MTN Ghana, Samuel Cranting, warned those involved in the pre-registering of SIM cards are infringing on the law, hence should put a stop to the act.
Pre-registered SIMs are illegal. People out there who pre-register SIMs are committing a crime, and it is a crime legislated by law under the Communications Services Act, and it is punishable by fines or terms of imprisonment. So we are encouraging people to register SIMs they want to use with their own IDs, which will carry their own names. That way you do not condone an illegality and you do not create problems for yourselves.
Mr. Samuel spoke of measures taken by MTN Ghana to put a stop to the criminal act.
I am aware a couple of months back, organized mystery shopping, where a total of, I think, about 8 people from Bekan La Paz through Medina, through Kwame Nkrumah circle were arrested. The SIM cards were, and they were, I think, granted bail. I don't know how far the investigations have gone, but I know they were arrested and taken to the Central Police Station in Accra. And on the back end, when we view the registrations that come in, we have set in place filters, etc., to be able to detect IDs that are used to register SIMs, more than 5 SIMs at a time, and we monitor those. And when we are quite clear that those SIMs are pre-registered SIMs, we delete them off the system.
Another issue which is of concern to MTN Ghana is the numerous fiber cuts experienced in the last 9 months. He pegged the number of fiber cuts at 978. Reporting for Joy Business, Rafiq Salam. Wow.
Now, about 2 million Ghanaians from the rural areas went online for the first time through rural internet connections this year and able to access information and digital resources, which was impossible earlier. Minister of Communications Esther Owusu-Ekufo disclosed this in an interview at the just-ended International Telecommunications Union Plenipotentiary Conference in Dubai. She emphasized that technology plays a key role in the development of every country's economy, hence the effort by government to ensure almost 29 million Ghanaians get access to the internet.
In e-governance, we're bringing governance closer to the people by utilizing ICTs. For us, it is not a question of whether we need it or not, but how much of it can we utilize and within what period. And so that's actively what we're trying to do. And we see that without it, all other sectors would suffer. And so if we aim to develop in any sector at all, we can do so faster by utilizing ICT. So it is a sine qua non for socioeconomic development and to create an even playing field for everybody. We need it. And so we're utilizing our universal service funds in collaboration with the private sector to deepen connectivity around the countryside. And this year alone, we managed to connect up to 2 million people who were otherwise unconnected. We worked with an equipment manufacturer and an IT company and a mobile network operator to develop a unique system which they call the Rural Star, which has enabled us to deepen penetration in our rural areas.
All right, so it's a Wednesday today, and as usual, we'll bring you the Joy Business Van on Business Live later tonight. Let's have a foretaste of what is expected to happen.
Concerned about the ban on the importation of vegetables into Germany due to the high concentration of pesticides in them, Germany-based Ghanaian Eric Aqua concluded that something must be done to help Ghanaian farmers. Putting his career on hold, he decided to bring back home what he does best, piloting, but this time for farmers.
I live in Germany, and for some time now, for about 3 years now, we realized that produce from Ghana is not making it to the German market, so we thought about it, and then we thought about how we as Ghanaians living in Germany can support or can do something, to help the produce from Ghana to come back to Germany, because the farmers cannot grow the crops without the chemicals. There are pests that they need to control.
The technique is quite common in developed countries such as Germany. Eric explains how the drone system works.
We use the GPS, so it will take a map of the land, and then it will we'll program it to spray. So it sprays everywhere on the land, and it has uniform spraying evenly across the land. Yeah.
Just a year in operation, Eric has been able to spray about 40,000 acres of farmland across the country with his 30 drones. The outbreak of the fall armyworm was a booming period for Aquamaya drone technology, as most farmers requested these services. The numerous benefits that come with the drone spraying method is what has enticed many farmers.
So you can get the full story on the Joy Business Van on Business Live at 5 p.m. on Joy News. And on that note, we wrap up this afternoon's edition of the Marketplace. Thank you so much for being with me. My name is Emmanuel Abuati. Good afternoon.